literally as soon as you're like, I'm going to start recording, and then I start like moving around in my
I
chair and
know.
then remembering it's like, no, Leslie told me to stay
Stay
in place.
center. Yes, it makes it so much easier for me to edit the video. But welcome back to A Word With Yourself.
Yeah, with no cold open because we did
Yeah,
that before we started recording.
yeah, we literally had an hour yesterday to talk and half an hour beforehand, so we're all good.
Yeah,
Today
that's
we're not going to bitch about return to office mandates for once.
though we could.
We could. Honestly, I could talk about it to the end of time. But
Yeah,
you know what? Other things are important too,
other things are
apparently.
important too.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and we're not going to talk about those either because we're talking about something fun, which is ghosting in the workplace, but maybe
Mm-hmm.
also not in the workplace, but in
Mm-hmm.
the workplace.
Yes.
And have you ever been ghosted by a company or a job, or
Mm-hmm.
ghosted a job, or
Mm-hmm.
being ghosted by somebody at work, like a
Mm-hmm.
coworker?
Mm-hmm.
And what
Yeah.
was that like? And I don't
Not
know, do we think
great.
it's becoming more common?
Yeah. It's becoming more normal or accepted to just be like, you know what? Just not gonna respond.
Yeah.
Or there's too much going on that like people are just like, I just don't have the bandwidth to even deal with this, and then they're just like, I'll do it later, and then it becomes so far down the line that they're just like, there's no point in even responding now because it just looks weird. So, and
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah, I did think about that. Because like the
Mm.
first, like one of the main places that it happens, I think, is in recruitment.
Oh God, yeah.
And there's this weird imbalance of power where as someone applying to jobs,
Mm-hmm.
you are expected to be like present, responsive, open to anything, eager, like
Yeah.
just, super on it. Whereas as someone hiring, you get
Mm-hmm.
away with murder,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
just not responding to people.
Yeah.
I mean, like, we're all used to the standard, like, email response that you get.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, but when you are in good conversations with a company, maybe you've had an interview and then they literally just
Yeah.
go silent and say nothing and like ignore you.
Yeah, that's the worst type, and it's so rude as well, just because you put
Hmm.
so much time and effort into preparing for conversations. And I've got to third interviews where they just ghosted me, and it went so well. And we were emailing back and forth, blah 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 blah. Blah. We had a great chat. Then the final interview or whatever, I followed up, no response, and I was like, okay, I'll give it another week or so. And then I followed up again, no response. And like this is like a big company as well. It's not some like rinky dink, they don't really have systems in place or anything, but like an
Mm,
established corporation, that should have some kind of, automated email they could even send, but no. And it was just so weird because then you're asking yourself, like, what did I do? Like, clearly I'm not a good fit, or I'm not as, experienced as I thought I was. But like everything else indicated that you were. It's just that final ghosting act that just really throws your mind into like disarray. So I was
which
really,
is
yeah, that, that really annoyed me.
very similar to like dating.
Yes.
Whereas like you don't want to email them too much because you might seem over eager for the
Mm.
job as if that's somehow a bad thing,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then you're left questioning yourself when they just like don't respond. And
Yeah,
yeah,
it's very similar. Yeah, recruitment and dating is actually, when you think about it, they're very, very similar in the kind of underlying rules and things that you do just to be polite and blah, blah, blah.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, and especially in the dating world right now with so many apps and things like that, it's just so transient. You're like on to the
Mm,
next one. You might see somebody and you message to them, and then you're like, nah, I've kind of changed my mind, and then you just don't respond because it's easier. Because what else are you actually going to do to somebody that you've texted maybe once or twice? And you could probably say, like, oh, this isn't, working out, which is probably what you should do. But
yes,
then most people just don't want that uncomfortableness. They're just
that's
like,
it.
yeah, yeah.
That's what I think. I think people are afraid of being uncomfortable. I think people have become increasingly afraid of being uncomfortable. I
Mm,
think struggle to
mm-hmm.
have difficult conversations with people.
Yeah,
And at
yeah.
least from the professional angle, should not be that much of an issue because it's not like
Yes.
in the dating world, like as a woman rejecting a
Mm,
man, there's like an element of like risk involved that actually could be dangerous for the woman and is for a
yeah,
lot of women. But professionally, like you should be able to say, hey, we're really sorry this didn't work out.
exactly. Yeah, that's not that's not a big deal. And it's just kind of like the bare minimum you can
Yeah.
do for a candidate who's put time and effort into it.
Yeah.
And even in like years gone by, when you would go in with like a hard copy or whatever, you talk to somebody, you know, you did get some kind of closure or whatever. But now that it's all so online, and they probably get like thousands of applicants as well, right? So it's like, how do you manage that aside from sending automated emails? And I'd say a lot of systems aren't, you know, so up to date that they're able to, you know who has been accepted and who hasn't, and say, you know, they probably should
Yeah.
have systems that do that. But yeah, even just applying and not hearing back at all is also kind of like a bit of a slap in the face, like not even a no thank you.
Yeah.
Just kind of like, just, you know, shooting into the wind with everything you send out, and it's just so tiring and demotivating for candidates as well, you know.
Yeah. And like, I don't mind the automated rejection email after application.
Yeah.
I don't think that once you've had an interview, you should get an automated,
Yeah.
you know, because you should only be interviewing the number of people that you're actually able to put through a recruitment process.
Exactly.
And like recruiting, like that's your first impression as a company and someone that you're hiring. That is like the best version theoretically of the company that you're getting. And so like, if that's their best, what's
it going to be like?
Their worst? Right?
And that's like recruitment HR, like, you know, that's kind of a bit sketchy if that isn't, you know, a well-oiled machine, and that people are, you know, the basic courtesy of saying, actually, you know, you don't fit the job. But
I did have like a mutual ghosting situation, I remember, where there was a company looking for a fractional COO, which is you know, part of what we do at Wren, and had a great conversation with them. Had a second conversation with them, and I was like, okay, well, what's the timeline and like the roles that you're seeing? Because they did a bunch of other work, but mainly in like the CFO and CHRO space, and now they were one in operations. And I said, well, what's the timeline? Like, you know, what's the demand here that we're looking at? Because I was trying to do like an estimate for like time and the structure of the engagement. They're like, well, you know, it's just something that we're thinking about and we're not sure. We just want to see what's out there in case it does come up.
So we can't give you any firm details whatsoever.
So I had two like detailed discussions with these people about like, you know, coming on board, and so I said, okay, well, you'll let me know.
Won't you?
And they didn't, and I didn't follow up either. It was like,
it was like a mutual, you were both kind of like, we
just kind of ghosted each other, because it was it was kind of like, obviously it never came up for them again, you know, but also I was like, wow, that just felt a little disingenuous to me as well. So I was a little like, I'm not going to, if they come to me, fine. But I'm not going to chase this one down.
Yeah, that sounds dating. It sounds like dating, to be honest. Do you know what? If they don't seem that interested, I'm not going to respond, or I'm not going to follow up. And then if they do, fair enough. Okay. That's grand.
I've had someone ghost, like an employee ghost.
An employee that worked for you?
Yeah.
So, like, just never came back?
Yeah. So I had hired someone to do some project management work. Full-time employee. And so, you know, came in, like, you know, went through the portfolio with them, like these, and they were like small like minor projects kind of thing. So there's a portfolio of maybe about 8 of them. Because like I had that portfolio myself as part of my own, so I knew what it took to run them. And so I hired someone in to take this over. And you know, the beginning it was kind of fine, and then, you know, stuff started slipping, like dates started slipping. So it's kind of like taking them at their word for the reasons to start with. But then I would just started getting, you know, a little spidey sense that something wasn't quite right. And so I said, okay, well, let's do like this like big update. Like we'll have like a session, I want like a big update of like all of the projects. And I kind of said, you know, I just want to see, you know, what's the latest status on it? What's the current timeline? What were the last conversations you had? And if there's any blockers, and like, you know, and if there are, what's like the risk mitigation that we have, like very, very standard stuff. And they said, sure, no problem. And then went away for lunch, and they never came back.
Where did they go?
They literally never came back.
Did they let anybody know that they quit?
No, I think eventually HR managed to get a hold of them. And I don't know, was it like eventually just had to inform them that we were terminating the employment because they just never came back, or whether they did actually confirm, no, I'm not going to come back, kind of thing. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and obviously after that realized that they just basically hadn't done anything on the work, right? So
they just didn't want to face the music that they hadn't actually done their work. So they're like, you know what?
That's fundamentally what it was. It was like I was about to discover that like nothing had really been done. So they got ahead of
it, actually. So it was actually quite smart.
Yeah, they were like, oh no, this isn't gonna go well, so I'm just gonna dip.
Maybe they won't notice.
Thing is, like, I still have a picture in my head of them walking out the door for the last time.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, maybe I think I'm imagining that I thought something was off, but something was off anyway. It was why we were having this meeting, and literally never saw them again.
I actually really like the sound of that person.
Yeah, honestly, in a way, I kind of respected it.
You know what? Yeah. I mean, you're not going to come in and pretend that you did all this stuff. You're like, you know what? I'll make this easy for both of us, and I'll just leave.
Honestly, because like I would have had to think about performance improvement. I would have had to, it's almost easier for me to take back over managing the projects temporarily while we get in somebody else than it would have been to try and like almost micromanage somebody through something they were like, in a way, they did me a favor for sure. Yeah. But like,
oh my
I just
God.
remember being like, no, they're gone.
Okay.
They're gone. Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like
all
that's
personal
the dream.
effects, no personal effects left on their desk. Just
they
packed
wouldn't
up,
even know
left
they were
for
there.
lunch, and never came back.
Wow, I wonder where they are now.
Yeah, me too.
Wouldn't that be great? You know, like, I'm not saying they hated the job, they wanted to leave obviously because they didn't do anything or whatever, but like a job you hate, just like leaving and never coming back and just having the ability to do that, because most people can't, right? Because you need money and, you know, security, blah blah blah. But at one time in my life, I would love to do that.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. So and like, thing is, there could have been other things going on that I didn't know about. It might have been like, you know, there's plenty of reasons. Didn't give me an opportunity to find out or support them, but maybe it worked out for the best in the end. So, but yeah, it was just this wild situation. I was like, oh, they never came back. They're just.
Were they even there to begin with?
They never came back.
We don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like, we might have talked about this before, but definitely with some people, it's this notion of like, if you're in the position to do it, of course, which is incredibly difficult, and lucky to be in it, to have like a savings account. And the thing is, like, I think we've discovered that we can't really swear on this podcast, so we never really figured it out. But basically, like, the FU fund, which is the one that
I think we can swear.
Okay,
we just can't talk about politics, or we'll get or YouTube won't let us promote our videos.
So yeah, it's our fuck you money.
Yeah.
Which is I mean, like, you know, it's the notion of like a safety net, but it makes it more fun to say fuck you money than it is to save your safety net.
Yeah.
Which is you know, if you're able to be in the position to have like whatever it is, a couple of months of like to tide you over between jobs, so that if it does come down to it, that you can be like, fuck you guys, I'm out. Yeah. And prevent you kind of like having to stay in a situation that might be not very good.
Yeah.
Or exploitative, or
like to stay. Yeah. You just kind of power through until you find something else, which could be months. Yeah. The job market is not great. It's an employer's world right now.
That's great. Which is why more people are getting ghosted all the time, because the balance of power is in their favor.
Exactly. You know, unless they are really, really looking for a specific candidate and they want that person, and they'll do anything to get them or whatever, you know, they just don't care, because you're just you're kind of a faceless person, you know, when it's all tech driven. Whereas remember before, you go in for like in-person interviews and stuff like that, and it was a bit more hard to ghost people like that, right? Because you've been face to face, and so now with the, you know, the push with, you know, online interviews and things like that, it's so much easier to ghost people. Same with dating apps, so much easier to ghost people than it was to meet somebody in like your friend group who you'd see all the time. Like, they couldn't just ghost you really, because you'd see them, you know, or they would, and they'd be like, what the hell? You know, it was just a little bit more awkward to ghost people before we had all of these different options.
Yeah, for sure. It's I think that the recruitment process is broken, and I think everybody fundamentally agrees with that. Nobody has a great solution to how to deal with volume in a way that isn't awful for everybody involved. But I'll tell you that there is a very specific situation where I will temporarily ghost people that I stand by. Which is if I'm on Slack or Teams or something and someone just says hi.
Oh my God, I will wait until the end of time until they write something else before I respond. Yeah. I feel like people should just know by now that that's not appropriate. You know? You would think. Yeah. I feel the same way about cold LinkedIn messages. I get so many of them lately, and like people will add me as a connection, and I'll be like, oh, that's interesting, but they've got an automated message that comes right away.
Pops up straight away.
Yeah, and sometimes it's nothing to do with anything that we even do, you know. And I'm like, did you even look at the profile? And then I feel kind of that I have to respond in order to be polite, you know, and just say thanks, not right now. And I've done that before, and then people have followed up again, you know, in a week or two, and I'm like, come on, like this hard sell is like too hard. And you're just putting like no effort into seeing whether it's a right fit, you know, or if it's worth your time even reaching out. Like you're wasting time with people, you know, on people that you could actually do business with. So I'm kind of getting sick of those right now. There's a lot of messages coming through, and I'm kind of just like declining connections now because I can see in their profile like sales or tech sales or whatever. And if I don't have a mutual connection with somebody that I trust or know kind of their background, I'm just like, you know what, there's no point, because I know I'm going to get a message straight away. And I know people have to reach out and do cold calls and cold selling and stuff like that, but it's just, you know, within reason.
I think there's like the numbers game of like selling can do harm here, because it's kind of like it should be quality over quantity, but a lot of them are getting marked on quantity.
How many outreach calls they make.
Yeah,
which is a backwards way of doing it.
Which is exactly. It doesn't, because the thing is that it also lessens the likelihood that if you genuinely do meet someone or reach out to someone who does need it, they might be so exhausted by the volume of cold outreach that they won't see it. So you're kind of ruining it for everybody.
They won't take it seriously, and it might be something great
that actually could be good. Because I try to respond to the ones that
might possibly have something
that I
can
future. See why they would message me, even though I don't need them. I'm like, okay, like I am in your target market, so I'll explain why I don't need you. But actually that's given me scenario number 2. I genuinely don't respond to the ones anymore that are so out there that I'm like, I don't.
Right. There's no connection at all. This is just a, you know, pissing into the wind type thing. Or let's just throw shit at the wall and see what sticks.
I did have like a wild one, I think, and I wonder if I can find it on LinkedIn, that was like oh, you know, I can see that your competitor is like this thing who does this. And I was like,
no, they're not.
No, they're not. We don't do that.
Your competitor is Canadian
therefore
Tire.
They're not. They're 100% not our competitor. Like, if they're doing great, you know what I mean? Like,
I appreciate.
This was it. It was it was like, while digging around, I saw some folks comparing you to this. I'm not gonna, because that might, like, you know, dox them, which got me thinking, you know, if you're ever looking for more of the right companies, we can build lookalike lists. I'm like, okay. It's like, and then I ghosted them, and they said again, it's like, how do you know that your head of competitors like this one? I'm like, who? I don't. First of all, we're not their competitors. Second of all, nobody is talking about us like that. Like, it's such a blatant lie. I'm like,
you're like,
folks,
I know.
You've seen where several folks, like folks plural, are talking about comparing
Please
us
tell
to
me
these
where.
people. Please tell me where. I'd love to get in on that conversation. And it turns out that ones that she was comparing us to were basically this, like, very large a data-driven marketing agency. Agency. So not like
data-driven marketing.
It's not even consulting. You know what I mean? No. Like, it's just this big. Yeah, and I was just like, nobody's. We're not in a conversation with those folks.
Yeah. What a waste of time on their part.
Yeah, and they were also like, and again, I was trying to look, and it's like, I've never heard of these people. They're in, like, California.
Okay.
Like, and they're not necessarily, you know, nationwide.
Are they talking about us down in California?
No, you know? Of course they're not.
Maybe we've got a big Inside fan base in Silicon Valley. Yeah.
Maybe they know we don't. I think that someone saw this is where I think this happened, is someone saw the CA of California, matched it to the CA of Canada.
Oh,
saw
right.
that we offer marketing consulting, obviously you do, and said, oh yeah, they're the same.
I've got the perfect target.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So that was so that was wild. So I guess something like that, I ghost that for sure. Yeah.
So in certain circumstances we agree with ghosting, or very specific circumstances, when it benefits you both, like like if you went on a date with somebody and you both weren't feeling it and you both kind of knew you were, and you're happy enough to not say anything and just let it fizzle out. But it's always if one person is more invested than the other, that it's like, oh, they ghosted me or whatever, so it just really depends. It's a very tricky balance to ghost.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's things like I'd love to be like, oh, what's like the most dramatic ghosting story, but it's like the nature of it is like they just disappear. Like there's no drama in it whatsoever. It's just you suddenly never hear from that person or that company ever again, and that's it.
It's a strange experience as someone who's been ghosted once or twice in my life, or ghosted a few. And I get it from the side of the person who's doing the ghosting sometimes, because I'm like, what do I say? Like, they're not understanding it or whatever. And like, what else can I do short of being like very forward? But I don't really know this person, so why do I need to go into such a long thing about why, So yeah, it is a tricky one, but in general, it's quite rude.
It is. I think
not if I do it or you do it.
Well,
no, it is. For everybody.
Although, we are so inclined to like, as human beings, we trend towards like pleasing people and wanting to be liked and all of those kind of things that, a lot of the tactics, like sales tactics, etc., recruitment tactics really take advantage, I think, of that innate kind of feeling that most people have in a way.
Yeah.
And especially a lot of the cold outreach, I think, takes advantage of that, because like ideally I would love to respond to all of them in a thoughtful way that says, no, like I'm not your target market for this, like no, like you can not waste any more time on me. But then to your point, like I have gone through periods of time where I'm like, you know what, I respect, and feel sorry for the people having to do this, so I will respond to all of them and I'll explain why we're not a fit so that they can like take me off the list and not have to waste any more time. The problem is that the vast majority of time I've done that, they've ignored why I've told them I'm not a fit, and have tried to shoehorn in anyway, and in a way that's clearly not going to work. And that makes me lose respect for them, and then make me lose respect for the company, because I'm like, if your sales tactics is to try to sell me something that I've clearly articulated I don't need or want right now, and that you can clearly see that I don't need or want right now, to me that's shady business practices. And I think that's very underhand. I think it's very sneaky, and I think that people who do business like that are not someone that I want to engage with.
There's no integrity there.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of like, I don't know how this works. Surely just getting your market right, surely, is it takes a little bit longer, but like would have a higher rate of success.
Yeah. It's just different approaches to it, right? The ones that want to work in good faith and integrity, and the ones that are just like, just, at all costs, let's, shoot our shot at people.
And honestly, like there's been a few where I've said, no, like this isn't for us, and they've said, okay, great, thanks, like let's stay in touch. I have gone back to a couple of those like a year or two later and been like, you know what, we actually do need this now, let's talk. I would never go back to someone who had pushed after I had said clearly like this isn't, I wouldn't go back to those people again. Because they've left a bad taste in the mouth. So
don't they have some kind of rule of you have to get a no twice or something, right? So you get the first no, and then you try and get it past the next one. If you get a second no, then you pull back or whatever, which is a terrible way. It's a terrible way to do it, but like and I can think of instances just like people trying to talk to you on the street about things and so on, and you're just like no, and then they're trying to call you back and you're like no, like no, I need to get home, I'm hungry.
And I think it's also like there should be some nuance there. And again, I feel sorry for these people, right? They're told to reach out to as many people as possible and get conversion rates up as possible.
Yeah, they're under pressure.
So like they don't care if they can get you to take a meeting with like the next level of sales. They don't care if you don't succeed beyond that, right? Because they've hit their numbers. And so I think the incentivization around sales like drives a lot of this kind of in a negative way. And they should be allowed to be like, look, this person has clearly said this isn't for them. Like, I don't need any more than this one no. Or someone says, oh, I don't think so, I'm not sure. okay, sure, go back and see if there's a bigger fit, but like,
yeah, there needs to be different approaches to it depending on, you know, the person you're targeting or something like that. It just means more work, and you know, they don't want to do because they segment them, and you know, and then like, well, I didn't get the sale because I didn't push it because they didn't want it, and then it's just all this. It's bad management, obviously, just in general, to do that. But yeah, I think that's probably why, you know, sales gets a bad rap, you know, and like, oh, they're such a salesperson, blah, 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 just because of these kind of underhand tactics that, you know, they ruin it for everybody, right? Because not everybody's like that. You know, some salespeople are brilliant, like, you know, and they really want to help you and stuff, but it's the ones that do those kind of like hard selling, forceful tactics that, they ruin it for everyone.
I agree.
So, so that's a rant on that. That'll be a good Friday afternoon rant.
And honestly, sometimes it's the phone calls as well. It's like,
yeah, I know. I can't even imagine that like cold calling people on the phone works anymore. And I know they do it to like, you know, vulnerable people more so because, you know, they're not as, you know, versed on spam calls and things like that. Telemarketing and so on and so on. Like I would literally never buy anything off somebody who rang me on the phone about it. Like even my bank calls to offer me like extra things, and I'm like, no, unless I really, really need it or something, of course. And that's the thing, right? It's do you need something at the time this person calls, and is it the right fit? Leads to whether or not you'll buy it. But it's just kind of that variance between the need for the product and the call at the time and place. That means, you know, you say no.
I mean, a cold call worked on me once recently.
Not about that fridge thing, was it?
Oh God, no.
No,
it was like someone calling about like that they do like shred applications and stuff like that. And so, and there was like, oh, they're tax tax rebates for research and development stuff. So anyway, so I was like, you know what, actually I'm interested in that. So let's have a call. And we did have a call. But that is such an exception, because I find that most people, when they cold call you, they'll say, oh, I see that you're interested in this, or like they'll start asking you questions off the bat without giving you a chance to breathe and be like, what do you mean? Like, you know, it's 7 o'clock in the evening on a Friday and you're asking me about like my commercial real estate stuff. I'm like, what? Like, what? Like, who are you, first of all? And because they kind of say, oh, I'm calling from blah, 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 and it's just like, what?
Like you should know exactly what they're calling about or who they are or anything like that.
No, sometimes it's just very rushed and they want to get their spiel out, and it's just like, no, like
kind of stun you into buying something.
Like, or when they say, oh, I'm calling from X, like, do you have some time? And I'm like, I don't know who X is. Not the other X, but you know what I mean? I don't know what the company is. No, I honestly, the answer is I never have time. So
I need to know what it's about first before I can decide whether I have time too.
And so I think, I don't know, cold calling is like, I mean, I wouldn't want to do it. I would really struggle to do that with people because it feels very intrusive, and I feel very intruded upon when I get cold calls. But like I said, there are ways to do it, and I think we should look into that a little bit more, or maybe other people should just consider it.
Just consider it. That's all. Yeah,
just consider it.
Yeah. I do remember a time when I did have to do cold calling. I know we're coming to the end, and I've got to go back to work. But in my very first job, and it wasn't even like really hard selling either. It was like to invite people to come to an event, and like they were like, here's a list of people, call them and ask them to come to the event or something like that. And I was sitting like in the middle of the office and everyone could hear me talk, and I was just like, I hate this so much. So I like booked a room and like just sat in there the whole time and just cold called these people, and they were like, where did you get my number from? And I'm like, I don't know, I was just given a list. I'm sorry. So I do sympathize, you know, with with that as well. Like, you know, I was only like 23 and I was forced to call like 200 like senior executives, and then they asked me where I got their number, or like, don't call this number again, you know. It was awful. So
and that's it. Like, I always try to be nice because I know the person who's calling me is not the person who made the decision to call me. And so like, I know it's not their fault, but it's also like, please leave me alone.
Hop onto yourself. Okay, well, that's all for today.
Don't ghost people.
Yes, and if you do it in a nice way. If you do, make sure it's a mutual ghosting.
Don't take our advice. We clearly don't take it ourselves.
We clearly didn't come to a conclusion about what is bad and what is good. Anyway, maybe we'll come to a conclusion next time.
Maybe.
Okay. All right. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.